Yo, welcome to Empire of Gaming. This your boy Rome. And today we're going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to talk about a subject that I feel is an important topic in today's society. Today, I want to look at the Stanford Prison Experiment that was conducted pretty much to determine the outcome of how prison systems is operated and ran. We're going to watch a short clip and video on that documentary, and I want y'all to watch and think about it as well and listen to what I'm saying. And after we watch this video, I'm going to go into more details on my beliefs and my theory on this and why that experiment, the Stanford Prison Experiment, should be revisited. Let's begin.
Sometimes, the best way to assess how people will behave and conform within a particular environment is to create that environment and study them like you would rats in a lab. That's exactly what happened at Stanford University in the early 1970s, when a research group wanted to investigate the psychological effects of power and authority between prisoners and prison wardens. Today, we'll take a closer look at how that went down in this episode of the infographic show, The Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment was conducted at Stanford University between August 14th and 20th, 1971, by a research group led by psychology professor Philip Zimbardo, who ran his experiment with a group of unsuspecting college students. It was funded by the United States Office of Naval Research as an investigation into the causes of difficulties between guards and prisoners in the United States Navy and United States Marine Corps. The aim was to investigate how readily people would conform to the roles of guard and prisoner in a role-playing exercise that simulated prison life. In particular, Zimbardo wanted to find out whether the brutality reported among guards in American prisons was due to the sadistic personalities of the guards or whether it had more to do with the prison environment. So how did he go about creating this laboratory prison? Zimbardo converted a basement of the Stanford University Psychology building into a mock prison and then advertised for volunteers to participate in a study of the psychological effects of prison life. More than 70 applicants were interviewed and given personality tests until 24 ideal test subjects had been chosen. They were all male students who were paid $15 per day to take part in the experiment. The group was then randomly split into prisoners and guards. One dropped out, leaving 10 prisoners and 11 guards and 2 reserves. The guards worked 8-hour shifts in sets of 3, and the prisoners were housed 3 to a cell. There was solitary confinement for prisoners who broke the rules in an attempt to keep the mock prison as authentic as possible. To make it even more realistic, the college students were arrested at their own homes and taken to the local police station. They were fingerprinted, photographed, and booked before being blindfolded and driven to the psychology department of Stanford University and led to the basement prison. They were then stripped naked and had all their personal possessions removed, which were locked away. They were given prison clothes and bedding, and they were referred to by their number only. All this was done without warning, to shock the test subjects so their reactions were as if this were a real-life situation and they were real prisoners. The guards were dressed in identical uniforms, they carried a whistle around their neck and a small baton borrowed from the police. They also wore special sunglasses, so eye contact with prisoners was impossible. No physical violence was permitted, but the guards were told to do whatever was necessary to maintain law and order in the prison. Zimbardo observed the behavior of the prisoners and guards, as well as acted as a prison warden. So what were the results of this controversial psychology experiment? Within a few hours of the experiment beginning, some guards had already started to use their newfound authority to harass the prisoners. At 2:30 in the morning, the guards used their whistles to wake the prisoners up and do a count. This was to remind them of their number and also to demonstrate that the guards were in control. They provoked the prisoners by giving them pointless and boring tasks to accomplish, and if they disobeyed the rules at any time, they were told to do push-ups. One of the guards stepped on the prisoners' backs while they did push-ups, making it much harder. And being in the prison also quickly influenced the behavior of the prisoners. They gossiped to the guards about each other, and some even began siding with the guards against prisoners who did not obey the rules. But the first day passed without too much trouble breaking out, which may have lulled the guards into a false sense of security for what lay ahead, because during the second day of the experiment, things got a little out of control. The prisoners removed their caps, ripped off their numbers, and barricaded themselves inside the prison cells by putting their beds against the door. The guards forced the prisoners away from their cell doors by letting off a fire extinguisher. Then the guards broke into each cell, stripped the prisoners naked, and took the beds out. The ringleaders of the prisoner rebellion were placed into solitary confinement, and the few prisoners who did not take part were given special privileges, deliberately causing a rift in the prison population. The relationships between the guards and the prisoners started to change. As the prisoners became more dependent, the guards became more divisive towards them in order to hold on to control. As the experiment progressed, some prisoners faced emotional and psychological effects from the experience. Only 36 hours in, and prisoner 8612 began suffering from acute emotional disturbance and disorganized thinking, which resulted in uncontrollable crying and rage. The guards told him he could not leave, and he soon began to act crazy and to scream, at which point the psychologists realized they had to let him out. The guards held a visiting hour for parents and friends, exactly as would happen in a real prison. Zimbardo also invited a Catholic priest who had been a prison chaplain to evaluate how realistic the prison setup was. The chaplain interviewed each prisoner, telling them the only way they would get out was with the help of a lawyer. Half of the prisoners introduced themselves by their number rather than name. When prisoner 819 spoke to the chaplain, he broke down and began to cry hysterically. The psychologist told him to go and rest in his room before taking him to see a doctor. Zimbardo wanted the experiment to run for 2 weeks, but just 6 days in, he had to unlock the doors. Christina Maslach, a Stanford PhD who was brought in to conduct interviews, was shocked when she saw how the prisoners had been abused by the guards. "It's terrible what you are doing to these boys," she said. Years later, Zimbardo noted, "It wasn't until much later that I realized how far into my prison role I was. I was thinking like a prison superintendent rather than a research psychologist." The experiment demonstrated that people will readily conform to the social roles they are expected to play, especially if the roles are as strongly stereotyped as those of the prison guards. In the words of Maria Konnikova, a Russian-American writer with an AB in psychology who writes for The New Yorker, the lesson of Stanford isn't that any random human being is capable of descending into sadism and tyranny. It's that certain institutions and environments demand those behaviors and perhaps can change them. The Stanford Prison Experiment is one of the most controversial.
Now, that video that we just watched, that short clip, it was uploaded by the Infographic Show. Thank you for uploading that video. That was a small overview of what the experiment was actually like and what today's prison system are based on. So with that being said, I would like to say, life is not a movie. First off, the biggest mistake that they made was let the guards and half of the participants know they was being watched and viewed, know it was an experiment, letting them know that they were under supervision and wasn't nothing serious, it was only temporarily. By them self-consciously knowing that, they was able to deal with things differently and took things to a whole different level. First off, if I was to do it, I would have started off choosing random inmates and random guards and provided them with a story that the inmates is being relocated and the guards are being relocated to a different prison, not allowing them to know they were part of an experiment, to see the true reactions and how what would have actually written down. Now, doing it that way without them having no clue, they would have been looking at it like a real job, looking at it like real life. You would have been able to see and get a better understanding of how the human brain works. That's just like prison today. Once you go to jail, if you go to jail for something crucial, bigger than child support or parking tickets or something like that, you pretty much, your life is over pretty much. Society do not give second chances like that. Society is very judgmental. Majority of these higher managers, they see an application, they got a criminal background and automatically throw it in the trash. However, some companies are required to hire inmates that been released. Now, I believe, now this is my personal opinion, I believe that when it come down to rehabilitating someone and giving them a second chance in life and releasing them back into freedom, you got to provide them with the sources as a normal person, so they don't go back to what they was doing beforehand. Meaning, if you release an inmate and they go fill out an application, if they haven't did nothing as serious as murder or rape, they shouldn't have to put it on their application. Why? Because they done paid their debt to society for their crime they committed. They've been rehabilitated. They have been given a second chance and released back into society. And being released back into society, they need just as equal chances as succeeding as the next person. If one can't succeed but must survive, one will do what must do. And so if you take a tiger, a cub, away from his mother while it's still a cub, and raise it, being fed, being taken care of, everything provided, let it get well into its adulthood, put it back out there in the wilderness, 9 out of 10 times that creature would not survive because it does not have what the necessary needs and knowledge as the next tiger or lion will have of succeeding. So it will fail. That's just like with human, mankind, how the human work. If one is released from prison, can't get a job, can't provide for himself, can't provide for his family, 9 out of 10 times, one of two things are going to happen. One, the person is just going to give up and go back to jail, used to living in that environment. Or two, the person is going to commit more crimes to do what he needs to survive. Whether it's breaking, entering, or selling drugs, or pimping, or doing this or doing that. The facts are the facts, and the truth are the truth. And so with that being said, that's only the beginning. The environment in prison. If you go to jail for something simple, and you are not really a people's type, or you fragile, put it like that, your whole life will change. You will go in there fragile and come out destroyed. They should have a psychology on prison sites at all times, monitoring the environment, the situations, and the people within the prison, including the workers and the inmates. How are you going to rehabilitate someone and you don't know what the problem is? How is you going to correct the problem when you don't know what's the problem? You got to make it worse, but making it worse only leads to relapse. Prison is designed, when you get in there, to keep you coming back. Anyone watching this video that do not have a record, that never been in trouble, I respect that and I praise you for that. And I say, think. Always think before you make your next decision. And anyone, unfortunately, that does have a record, I advise you to push. Stay strong. Keep your head up. Keep hope, and you're going to get what you're searching for. Keep faith, and you're going to have a steak you take home to dinner after a hard day of work. If you understand what I'm saying. But society, as one, needs to stop being so judgmental. Stop keeping their nose so high in the air. And I'm not meaning no specific races. I'm not talking about just one. I'm talking about everyone and all. And by the way, I'm multi-racist myself. I mix with 3 different things. I'm not just fully black. This is my natural hair. I don't got nothing in it. It's dried in the thing. I put some water in my hair the other day. And so, But I'm L mixed, biracial. That's the correct term for it. I'm L mixed, Indian, Italian, and black. African American, I should say. However, that don't mean a dang thing with who I am. So when I look at the person in front of me or the person to the left or to the right of me, I'm not looking at your color. I'm looking at your morals and your actions that speak for you right now. My morals and my actions are speaking for me right now. Because I know that, real talk, if I gotta reach out to one person, inspire one person, give them a little faith, give them a little hope, pick their spirit up just a little bit, I did my job. That made me happy. I love helping other people. But you know what? For a person to be helped, they gotta want to be helped. They gotta be willing to take them steps. I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. Open up your mind, society. Let's take a look at what's around us. And I decided to do this video on this topic because I know this channel is, yes, about horror and gaming and superstitions and everything like that. However, there's more than life than just horror and video games. My life don't just surround horror and video games. And I'm going to bring it to you. I'm going to keep it 100. Let's open up our minds. Stay safe, stay healthy, man, 'cause much love.